Health, stress, and abilities is the topic of today's video. Last video I talked about the dice mechanics of my brand new TTRPG that I'm currently building right now called Triconomist. And that takes apart the body, mind, and soul aspect of a character, and you get to play along while developing them into the kind of hero that you want them to be. So today we're going to talk about, I guess, the parts that you got to look out for, which is receiving damage or receiving stress, but also some fun bits. So stick along. Stick along? Stick around and find out. So stick around to see. Health, of course, is a big factor in a TTRPG. While building a character, again, please go watch my last video if you're confused at this point. But every character has 6 attributes, one of them being power, which is the same as, like, you know, strength or like constitution kind of abilities. And whenever you determine that, you'll pick a number between 2 or 3, and you add that number of your power to your damage bar. If I have a character with 2 strength, I'll go ahead and fill in the dotted lines. I'll fill in 2 of those other slots. Well, you'll do the same thing with stress, except stress is with instinct, and that stress could just be like very minor damage, or maybe it's someone hurting your feelings, or maybe it's you seeing something horrifying. You can think of stress as kind of like, it's one kind of like a meta currency. If there's a thing that you're trying to do and you can't quite do it, but the GM may say, you can do it, but take 1 stress. But yeah, it's the same way as health. Like, you'll fill in the extra ones depending on how much instincts you have. And then the third one you have is ability points. You might notice that the 2 symbols are different shapes. It's because you got 2 types. You got the passion ability points and the harmony ability points. It'll be the same thing as power and instinct. You'll fill in as many passion points, like ability points, as much passion dice you start off with. And it increases as if you choose to, you know, level up your passion or harmony. We'll get back to the ability points, but let's go ahead and start with damage and stress. You want to avoid being overly stressed and overly damaged, because it will eventually cause you to become bloody or broken. Bloody if you receive enough injuries and stuff from being physically hit and receiving damage, or broken whenever you become overly stressed and maybe going into like a panic attack, or just start to freak out, or maybe lose all hope. You can be creative with how you phrase it, but altogether you can assume that you have reached the breaking point when it comes to your mental health or your physical health. If you become bloody or broken, you check that off, and that means you have disadvantage when rolling until it gets taken away. So last video we talked about how disadvantage works. So if I'm rolling to kick down a door, but I'm bloody, that means I have disadvantage, and that means I take away the highest die. I know what you're thinking. What if you're bloody and broken? Well, that means you have double disadvantage. You earn a scar or a trauma if you fill up your entire thing, like if you earn as much stress as you possibly could, and you earn 1 more. So from that point, when it's all filled up, you are broken and you do have to roll disadvantage, but if you earn another one, then you earn trauma, because it's past your breaking point. That means you're gonna permanently lose one of those damage or stress slots. You will fill out the far left slot, like completely fill it out. Don't just check it off like you do when you receive damage. That slot no longer exists, which means even though my character has 5 slots for damage, he now only has 4, and you can't get that back. It's left a permanent scar on your character in a way. And your player might look back at that last slot and be reminded, like, oh yeah, that's when I got my arm chopped off in combat. Or, oh yeah, that's when I had this huge gash across my face that almost blinded me. And now I can't really see that good whenever fighting, and it affects me, even now. I put in a little space called scars or trauma, where you can write out maybe how that affected your character, or what mark was left on them. I think that's really important to keep track of. Not only what happened, but how does that affect my character long term? Because it should, you know, during combat or during a traumatic event, it should absolutely change your character's outlook on the rest of the world after that. What I don't like about some TTRPGs is that you can completely heal up almost like a video game when it doesn't affect your character at all after that point. I think if you get like absolutely smoked in combat or absolutely traumatized in a certain event, it should have lasting effects. And this means that even though your character's getting better throughout the entire campaign, maybe you're getting some more wear and tear as you go as well, which is totally fine. That's how humans are. And I really want us to feel those past adventures weighing on us. Now we're talking about ability points. So, ability points differentiate certain characters. You can have very special abilities used by these. So, where stress and damage you're trying to avoid checking off, abilities you might check off yourself. So there's already 2 abilities that are automatic that go with any character there. You got a passion point. You can check off one of your passion points so that you can re-roll your dice. I'm kicking down a door again, and I have 3 power. And I kind of succeed. It's not great. My highest one I got was a 5. But I really need to kick down this door. It needs to happen right now because the monster's right behind us. I'm going to use a passion point. Go ahead and check that off and re-roll. There you go. It paid off. Now the thing is, it doesn't always pay off, which means it happens in desperate times, which is literally what the passion point represents, is you pushing yourself in a desperate time. I love that. I like it a lot because it's literally the player acting through the character by pushing themselves and using something that's precious to them, like a point where they could use on a different ability to push themselves harder. And also you got harmony point, which is very, very important. You have, obviously with damage, you can heal by resting, and over time you'll heal, or you can bandage yourself up relatively easily. But stress? How does that work? Do you just stop being stressed? I thought that was a little bit dumb to have like a mechanic. If it can easily be taken away, people won't even care about being stressed. Well, there's another kind of meta currency that can be used to relieve stress, and that's using a harmony point. So when you use a harmony point, you'll go ahead, check off one of those slots, and then you'll roll for harmony. Let's say I have a 2 in harmony. Okay. So the rule for harmony points is every 5 you get heals 1 stress. I would be able to erase one of the check marks I had on my stress meter and be 1 less stress. If I roll a 6, that means I'm completely healed for my stress. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I will note that in order to use a harmony point, you have to be in a safe environment. He's wearing different clothes now. I'm editing the video right now, and I just thought of something. So players should be rewarded for being creative and for interacting with each other. So I think when you're rolling for harmony to relieve stress, if a player comforts you in some way, or if maybe you have some kind of heirloom or like something that gives you sentimental comfort, that should be rewarded through an extra bonus die whenever you're rolling harmony, because it makes sense, it's creative, and I think we should be pushing, as GMs, be pushing for players to do as much as they can with their surroundings or with each other to help each other with certain roles. That's it. Now I'm adding it to the official alpha rule set for the game. You might be thinking to yourself, okay, so I can heal damage, I can heal stress. How do I heal ability points? And you keep mentioning they can upgrade your attributes, but how do I do that? Well, tune in for next video where I talk about story points and goals and how they are so important to this character.